The first day of the 2022 budget debate began on Monday with a number of questions from the parliamentary opposition for immediate clarity from the members on the government side. The first half of the debate was opened by a member of the opposition, Amanza Walton Desir, who described the budget as disrespectful, discriminatory, deceitful, and visionless. The basis of our arguments rests solely on the APNU AFC's belief that the budget does not provide any real benefits for the poor and vulnerable. To this extent, the question was put forward to the House: what projects in the budget are being funded by the $126.7 billion oil revenue used in Budget 2022?
There is no duty binding this government to put those monies towards our urgent developmental priorities. But I suspect they want to use it for budget support. I suspect that they want to use it to finance this big debt that they're incurring. Mr. Speaker, today we stand in this House and we can tell you where this $127 billion from the fund is going to be expended.
The passage of the Natural Resource Fund Bill on December 29 made it possible for the government to utilize all of the existing oil funds in the 2022 budget. On another note, it was conveyed that of the $552.9 billion allocated in this year's budget, $218 billion have been allocated to capital expenditure. With reference to this, the MP conveyed that Guyana has a deficiency gap of 41% according to the International Monetary Fund, which according to her means that a total of $8 to $9 billion will be wasted. The MP also recommended that more money be reallocated to pensioners and students. But rather than answering the question regarding the specific projects to be funded by the oil revenue, Minister of Labour Joseph Hamilton utilized the opportunity to highlight the accomplishments of the PPPC government. He boasted of increased training at the Board of Industrial Training, the presence of sub-offices for the Ministry of Labour in 9 of the country's 10 administrative regions, and a 16% decrease in workplace accidents. This, he said, proves that the government is ahead of the opposition. And in response to the minister's calls for increased allocations for the country's poor and vulnerable population, Hamilton said that while the opposition has judged every allocation in the budget, they did nothing during their tenure in government to mitigate the struggles of the people. Meanwhile, opposition member Ganesh Mayapal in his presentation classified Budget 2022 as a representation of the government's fake love for Guyanese, since there was no provision for the country's public servants.
It is extremely sad that with the current living standard in this country, no proper mention of public servants was made in this budget. To all public servants, I assure you that with the return of the APNU AFC to government, your interests will be paramount.
Mayapal described the PPP as a mafia masquerading as the government. He also called on the government to respect the local government organs of the country. Mayapal promised to provide the House with written proof that the government does not respect local democracy. Meanwhile, a motion filed by former opposition leader Joseph Harman and parliamentary chief whip Christopher Jones to refer 22 members of parliament in the government side to the privileged committee over alleged parliamentary misconduct was dismissed by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Amanza Nadir.
The motion will not proceed because a prima facie case has not been established. And secondly, there is, I was told, only reminded this morning, because I'm surrounded by so many lawyers, and in the House we have many lawyers on both sides of excellent repute, that every first-year law student learns the phrase extorpi causa non oritur actio, which means that you can't bring a legal action for your illegal actions in the first place.
A motion of no confidence against the Speaker of the National Assembly was also filed on January 23 by the opposition members. No action has been taken on that motion. Just last week, the PPPC also filed a motion to refer 8 members of Parliament on the opposition side to the Committee of Privilege to be investigated on the account of breach of privilege and parliamentary misconduct. That motion was accepted. For the HTB Nightly News, Kendell Richmond.